In the last video, we covered diction. That's fairly concrete. Today, we are going to get into something a little more abstract. But don't worry, even though the problem is abstract, the solution is pretty down to earth. I have had the privilege to act as a consultant for aspiring praise and worship songwriters. It was a great experience. I was inspired by the creativity and passion that they brought into the songs, and I was happy that I could help make these already good songs even better. When giving cool feedback, I found that one of the hardest things for me to communicate was why a particular word made the writing sound awkward or amateurish. And I would sit there for the longest time trying to figure out what was wrong with the word. It was just off. I'm not a great grammarian, nor have I memorized the dictionary, and this is actually good news because you don't have to do either. But you do need to know when a word is a little off. Now, I have read a lot of artless writing. I do it professionally. The amateur writer doesn't know that the monosyllabic ordinary word like shows is sometimes the best word, as this quote from Hamlet illustrates. Such a sight as this becomes the field, but here shows much amiss. In this case, as in many cases, the word shows is the best word. In fact, it's almost always better than exhibits, often better than displays, and usually better than reveals. And when I encounter the word discloses, I know that someone's been abusing their thesaurus. Amateur writers rarely use the word shows. They just don't think it sounds sophisticated enough. But by using anything but shows most of the time, shows that they are unsophisticated. It all depends, of course, on context and purpose, but in any particular situation, there are words that don't quite make it. Amateur writers will use them for various reasons, to make a nice rhyme, to maintain a rhythm, or because they think it sounds better. But the word just doesn't work, and it's hard to explain why. It just doesn't work. It's not too difficult to say why the use of the term desire is better in "it is my desire to honor you" than it is in "you are the love of my desire." But it is not so easy to explain why the word ransom is better in the line "his wounds have paid my ransom" than it is in the line "he is the ransom for my life." How do I know that one way of saying something is better than another way of saying something? I don't know. I just do. And it's not just me. Many other people also have this mysterious power. And you can have it too. It's called having a poetic ear. If you want to use words powerfully and beautifully, you need to develop a poetic ear. I developed mine by reading a lot of amateur writing. At the same time I was reading amateur writing, I was reading the best works of poetry and prose in the English language. When one reads a lot, one internalizes the many ways that something might best be said, and many ways that something ought not to be said. It's no surprise then that I am sensitive to lyrics in our worship songs that more closely resemble student writing than that of Robert Frost. But here's the good news, the practical solution to this abstract problem. You too can develop a poetic ear. All you need to do is read and study great poetry and prose. Not the poetry of other praise and worship lyricists. If you really want to develop a sensitivity for good diction, read the very best wordsmiths: Seamus Heaney, Robert Frost, the Brontes, Jane Austen, Thomas Hardy, Christina Rossetti, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Langston Hughes, Twain, Shelley, Maya Angelou, John Keats, T.S. Eliot, and Shakespeare. These and others are foundational, but there is much to be gained by reading contemporary authors and poets. Just read. If you don't want to, that's totally fine. But if you want to write great lyrics, you really have no choice. This will all take time, but if you start reading the best writers of prose and poetry, in 10 years' time you will be writing much better lyrics than you would be if you didn't. 10 years, you cry? Well, if you are 36 now, I'm telling you that by the time you are 46, you will have moved a long way down the spectrum toward being a poet. That gives you 30 years to write great songs. That's plenty of time. Good writers never compromise diction for the sake of rhyme or rhythm or anything else. They strive to use the perfect word in every instance. They just don't settle. You can't start here, however. Before you know what the perfect word is, you need to have developed that poetic ear, and that takes 10 years. Even then, it will still tie you into knots at times, but that's the challenge of poetry. And if you want to write lyrics, I don't think we have any choice. Happy reading.